25 Chinese nationals who had been kidnapped a day earlier in the northern Sinai town of al-Arish were freed February 1st. This follows another kidnapping of Chinese workers and engineers in Sudan. Both illustrate how China's business interests are forcing Beijing to readdress the implementation of its non-interference policy. The Sinai kidnapping incident came amid several days of local Bedouin protests and road blockages in the area, as they demanded the release of 5 relatives detained by Egyptian authorities due to suspected involvement in earlier attacks. Tensions have also centered on disagreements between locals and the government over a natural gas pipeline that supplies Israel. While the Chinese workers in Egypt have been freed, in Sudan, several remain detained. The workers, employed by the state-owned Power Construction Corporation of China, were kidnapped by a group of assailants who identified themselves as members of the Sudanese People's Liberation Front North, SPLM-N, a militant group with historic ties to South Sudan. The incident comes at a time when China is negotiating with both Sudan and South Sudan governments over the transit of oil for export from South Sudan through pipelines in Sudan. While China has more leverage in the negotiations than many of the other foreign players, Chinese vulnerability to disruptions in Sudanese oil flows has left Beijing with little option but to become involved in the negotiations. These 2 recent incidents, coupled with other kidnappings and attacks on Chinese workers and operations around the world in recent years, ranging from Southeast Asia to South America, highlight the fact that, with expanding economic interest and active presence in many restive locations, Chinese citizens are exposed to security threats that they haven't been in the past. At the same time, the Chinese government has been cautious to play a stronger security role internationally, despite this greater economic involvement, thus leaving its expatriate workers further exposed. China is finding it more difficult to remain the impartial third party, able to promote its economic interests in conflict zones and unstable areas without having to take sides. The kidnappings also highlight Beijing's relative weakness in securing its citizens, remaining unwilling to deploy military forces in response to security incidents. In short, Beijing's expanding global activity and economic role are requiring the Chinese leadership to rethink its international political and security policies, something that can have even broader repercussions as China is increasingly tagged with an imperialistic label.